Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I have your very first gameplay and overview straight from the Spearhead dev server for the Su-30 MK2 AMV. This will be a rank 8 battle rating 13.3 premium jet fighter in the Russian air tech tree, though of course flies under the Venezuelan flag. And as I mentioned, yes, this is a premium, you heard that right, and is going to be, as of release, barring any changes, the highest BR premium ever introduced into game, which also, in part, also makes it the most capable premium ever introduced into War Thunder. And you'll see why in just a second. So this is pretty much just your standard Su-30, as you can see with the SM. It does have the same performance stats. Again, everything can change up to and even beyond the release of this major update. Its Mach number limit is a little bit higher than your standard Su-30 SM. However, everything else is pretty much the same. Now, when it comes to the big differences, we look at its weaponry. And as you can see, it's got a hell of a lot of weaponry. So you might be looking at these, the RVV AEs. These are just the export variant of the R77. So it's practically the same. In fact, actually, it's got the same exact stats in game as the R77. So practically, again, it is the same. You can also get the R27 R1 if you want for whatever reason, as well as, of course, R73Es for your closer range IR engagements, and also, if you want, R27 ET1s, which you could actually make a use case for those over top of two RVV AEs. If you want for whatever reason, I guess there might be a usage for those. Otherwise, this thing has a hell of a lot of anti-ground ordnance, guided at that, including TV-guided 1,500 kilogram bombs, TV-guided KH-29 TD missiles. You also have laser-guided missiles, and also a first for War Thunder, KH-59MEs, which are essentially air-dropped cruise missiles. Yeah, that's right. These are essentially cruise missiles being introduced into War Thunder, and it's just absolutely crazy. Like, these aren't incredibly fast, but like, look at that launch range. 120 kilometers. Just bonkers that we are getting this in War Thunder for a premium, no less. Then, of course, you also have your smaller 500 kilogram bombs, and also your assortment of rockets and dumb bombs. So this thing is going to be a menace pretty much whether it's facing air, facing ground, so long as it keeps the same weapons. Again, that could change even beyond the release of the major update. And also, of course, has the N001 radar. Not the best in game, that is noticeably weaker than what you have here on the Su-30 SM, which would make sense, being that the air-to-air weapons on the Mark II AMV are not quite as good as what you have on the SM. However, it's still not a bad radar and should get the job done. So that said, let's get into a few matches here and then maybe go into test drive after those matches and test out those cruise missiles. That said, let's get into it. Now, one thing I did not mention in the intro, this does have a helmet-mounted display, which actually goes quite far, as you can see here, to either side, which is pretty damn nice in my opinion. Additionally, as far as I could tell, this does not have thrust vectoring. Again, things can change up to and beyond the release of the major update. I'm not entirely sure if thrust vectoring would have been an actual feature of this vehicle. We'll go ahead and launch an RVV AE. Basically, again, R77s, there's not really all too much different with them compared to the standard R77s. I should probably have TWS mode on, but this is the dev server. As you can see, there's basically 4 bots and 2 enemy players, so I'm not really all too worried there. I'll go ahead and drop down a touch and get behind these mountains. I'm sure that the R77 has already guided onto the enemy. Hopefully. Okay, there's the enemy. We can go ahead and drop on him a little bit. Do that. Switch over to R73s. He's getting a little closer. Probably going to die. And we have ourselves our first kill of the day. Not bad. Okay, we have someone else there. Going to drop an R77 on this fella. Again, RVV AE, R77, practically the same thing. The radar does seem pretty good. Again, this radar is already in game. I've used it before. It's a perfectly serviceable radar. I really don't foresee any issues that people are going to have with it. You know, it's nothing really like that's going to stand out, but it's also nothing that's really going to be weak either. You know, it's a perfectly decent radar. I should probably use TWS, but that's neither here nor there. Again, this is just bots that we're fighting, so I'm not really all too worried. Also, we do have plenty, or a decent amount of flares and chaff. Not a ton, unfortunately, but decent enough where I'm not really worried about it. I'm trying to lock onto this guy with the HMD. Do that, and then we also have 4 R73s for backup. Won't need it in this case. Plenty good. You know, I'm going to go launch my final R77 on this guy. Let's see. Should be able to get the kill. Yep. We got a kill elsewhere, and right there. So we already have 4 kills, practically with doing nothing. Again, the majority of the enemies are bots, so it is what it is. That's just kind of how the dev server is. But in general, very effective, I'll say. You know, R77s are quite effective. I mean, pretty much any Fox 3 is going to be a very effective weapon system. You know, and again, when you have a good enough radar like what we see with this, it's just kind of easy. You're pretty much just plucking these enemies right out of the sky. And so, of all cases, I really wish I had another R77 here, because this guy is just flying over the base. Is that an actual player? No, that's not an actual player. That's bizarre. I'm just going to fly up to him. I don't think I'm going to survive this one, but I'll go ahead and lock on with this, and then hopefully I can get close enough to launch an R73. If not, it is what it is. Now, when it comes to speed, this thing is pretty good. It doesn't have a cockpit quite yet, so if you guys have ever played the dev server or seen dev server gameplay, you might know that the cockpit isn't really loaded in necessarily all the time. Ah, look at that. I destroyed it, though. That's cool. I destroyed it, which then still killed me. But that said, let's get into another match, see how this thing does. But thus far, I'm actually really, really impressed with it. Again, this is pretty much like a zero resistance scenario, so I'm not really expecting that we're going to be fighting really all too many players, just because, again, this is the dev server. But as I said, one more match. Now, here's kind of a funny thing. That F-15, which is definitely an enemy player, he's tracking me. I can't track him yet. I'm just too far away. Like, the radar on this, it's a good radar once you get within range, but you have to be basically within range, and it's just not going to be as good as some of the better radars out there, unfortunately, as I showed before with the SU30 SM. Also, this is actually more so like an SU35 airframe, if that makes sense. It's just kind of how they do it. Now, typically I would like to launch these within 30 kilometers, but being that we're pretty much within engagement range now, I might launch a little bit sooner. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, I'm going to launch on this guy. We have an enemy down there. Launch on this fella. Okay, that might be a little bit more of a guaranteed hit. I'm going to launch 2 on him. Probably should have waited a touch longer, but they have around 16 kilometer range, these missiles, and before like their radar actually starts taking over. So hopefully that should be fine. Okay, we still have 1 flying, but it doesn't look like that's going to get a hit either. No biggie. I mean, we are facing half of the enemy. Oh, wow, look at that. I got a hit. Nice. Uh-oh. Missile about to hit me. So also bear that in mind too. Like, I'm playing this right now just to kind of give you guys more of an idea of how it's going to function. I'm not here to be like, oh, this is amazing. Like, you know, once it's once I actually get the review out for this, probably going to be within like a week or 2 of this update coming out. At that point, I'll show you guys, you know, I'll be able to go over with more detail about how good I feel that this vehicle is. Okay. But for right now, this is totally fine. Let's see. Can I get the kill? Ah, I can't. But I got the first kill. That's kind of the whole point. And that was with the Golden Eagle, no less. So, totally understandable. You know, again, I'm not here to be like, oh, look how good this is. Look how good I am. I want to show you guys actual gameplay. And actually having 3 enemy players out there, that works out quite well. You know, I was actually able to show you guys real gameplay. So that said, let's go ahead and just test out some of those anti-ground weapons and see how those function, because that is a huge part of this thing. And, you know, let's just get into it. Okay, so here we are testing out the anti-ground weapons. As you can see, these things are absolutely huge. These are the KH-59s. These are the, what, 39s or whatever the hell they are? 29s, there you go. So, we are pretty far from the enemy, around 21 kilometers, which is going to be further than your typical engagement range in ground battles if you decide to use this as CAS. Now, bear in mind, again, these are subsonic munitions, the KH-59s, so let's go ahead and see what we could do here. The zoom isn't terrible. It's not fantastic, but it's not terrible. It does use inertial guidance first to be able to kind of determine more or less where it needs to go. So right now, I'm not picking up on the TV signature, which it does use TV guidance. Once you get to within, I don't know, whatever range it might need to pick it up on TV. So it's not like these are IR guided, which would be a more surefire way of actually guiding them. So let's go ahead and look. As you can see, I mean, kind of close. It's just kind of zooming down, and then we should be able to get more of a look very soon. And then while those are kind of flying, there should be some M1s kind of right next door. See if I can lock onto those. It looks like I can. And then we have... Oh, maybe I couldn't. Let's see. I'll just do that. Okay, perfect. So we should be getting, hopefully, 4 kills. 2, 3, 4. Look at that. And it really helps being that these have, like, I think around 200 kilograms of explosive filler equivalent, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And then boom, boom. So I launched all of those cruise missiles, give or take between 15 and 20 kilometers out. Now, again, bear in mind that you're not going to be able to get, like, a TV-guided lock on them until you are closer. So I don't really know if it's going to pick up on them until you are quite a bit closer than, I don't know, 20 or 15 kilometers. But it might. Now, if they were IR guided, I feel like that would be quite a bit more impressive, but unfortunately such is not the case. I'm going to get a bit closer here to this MiG-15. I want to see if I can actually hit him with this. Can it track? Nah, it's not going to. No biggie. But we are going to get a touch closer. Just to kind of mess around here, see if these KH-59s can actually go after an air target. Again, it's a MiG-15. I'm not really expecting that I'm going to hit it, but hey, that'd be pretty cool if I could. You know what? We have one closer there, and I'm also going to launch 2 at these light tanks that are moving. Oh, so it's not picking them up. Not picking them up. Okay, there we go. We have a pickup just around 5.5 kilometers, which really is not very good. It's not very impressive, but what can you really expect? We're going to turn here, put this on, and probably not going to hit this guy, but we can try, right? Yeah, I'm a touch too close for that, I think. These are contact fuses after all, so it is what it is. And then, you know what? We can pull up behind them and see if we can hit them this way. Put those air brakes on. Maybe that'll give them a little bit more time to kind of even out here. Wouldn't that be kind of cool if I actually got the hit? I don't think I will. This is not maneuverable enough. Oh my gosh. Ah, right under. Again, it has to do with the fact that this thing has a contact fuse. It's not like a proxy fuse like you would get from a from your standard air-to-air missile. But that being said, that's about it. That's kind of like the new sort of weapon that this thing has. Pretty impressive. You know, so long as you don't mind the fact that, like, you're pretty much going to be able to aim at, like, an area and hit it with pretty much certainty from, like, very far out. But this thing doesn't have a targeting pod. It doesn't have anything overly impressive that will assist you in actually hitting your target. So, kind of sucks that you're not going to be able to do that. Maybe in future iterations, once we get those missiles or those cruise missiles in regular versions of this, in like the regular tech tree, and we get like a pod for it, maybe that'll help out. Who knows? But that being said, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. But either way, thanks again. See you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.